Okay. And we are live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our podcast where we explore the intersection of innovation and leadership. I am your host, Fizza and today we are diving into a topic that too often gets overlooked in the high stakes world of setups and innovation, which is mental health in tech entrepreneurship. And behind the success stories, venture rounds, and product launches are founders and innovators facing immense pressure, burnout, isolation, and emotional fatigue. So today we are joined by our one and only guest, Philip Cutting, with me, and with deep insight into the both tech and industry and the mental health space. So we will talk about the unique challenges founder faces, how the hustle culture affects well-being, and what meaningful sport actually looks alike. So whether you are an investor or an entrepreneur or someone navigating the world of tech, this episode is for you.
Awesome. Awesome. This is going to be a good call, guys. We entrepreneurs, we founders, we like to go a little bit crazy, right? By our nature. We like to live on the edge some. And there's good ways to do this, and there's ways to pull back the reins a little bit and make sure you don't get divorced before you're ready, right? So let's jump into this.
Yeah, great. So how are you, Philip? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, dear. I'm doing good. Today is an amazing day. I got to spend half the day with my wife. Um,
That's great.
if it's great for her, I got nothing done. No, I'm kidding, right? But it feels like that, right? Like because we are so gun ho sometimes that when we take time away, there's a lot of kind of like guilt and stuff on your mind, and you have to find a way to find that mental place and that time for your family and what's important to you, so that you can balance it all. And
Yeah,
today,
but
I I did a little better than usual.
yeah, sometimes you need some escape from work, and I guess it is better for your day-to-day routine. So yeah. So how was the week? How was this week went?
Oh, this week has been good. The kids been healthy. The work has been smooth. I haven't had any big challenges. That's nothing unusual, and I felt like it's productive. So my week was good. How was yours,
That's
there?
great.
Tell me about
Mine
the
was
highs and lows of
busy.
your week.
Yeah, mine was busy with some family commitment with my work. So it was a busy week for me. But the weekend is coming up. I'm having a good plan for my weekend. So let's see how it will go. So let's come to our topic. Yeah. So can you share your journey in tech and how mental health become a part of that story for you?
Mm. So okay, that's a good question. The hmm, I think it comes from just the nature that I'm very kind of aggressive and active, right? Somewhere a little bit of like ADHD, maybe, right? I'm not taking on that badge because I know some guys really have challenges with that. But I am very active and I like to focus on a lot of things. So I found entrepreneurship very natural, and I naturally found that I like to just dive into stuff. A lot of you guys know I have a little bit of a military background in me, and that just fed into kind of that mental dysfunction. So then, I get out, I transition, I go into the real world, and dealing with various things from military, from being hit with lightning and having a kid that was injured, and of course, would love to bury myself in work, and did that for probably 12 years before my wife is like, "Dear husband, I forgot who you are, right? You got to come back and be part of the family again." So start long journey kind of into trying to balance everything that a man
Now,
has to do for his
how long
family.
you have been
Doing that.
working in tech world? Like how long?
So for the tech world, I've been programming since I was 8 years old in
Really?
1986.
So
Yeah, I
early.
started programming super young. But I wasn't any good at it until after college, or maybe during college, when I really learned the fundamentals of how to make development
What was
reasonable.
your major subjects in college? Is it relevant to IT or tech?
So my bachelor's was in um, business information systems, management information systems, and my master's degree was in computer science. So it's all closely related to tech. You can wonder which one is more useful, especially nowadays.
So
I
you
have to
were
wonder which is
into
more.
information technology since your childhood, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've been into tech since I was a kid, into business. A lot of the times it kind of spun around real estate, construction, and stuff, but also into human resources in some points.
So today our audience will like to know that have you ever personally faced mental health challenges as a founder or leader?
Oh yeah, yeah. Certainly as a leader, right? In the military,
What
and
challenges you're facing?
oh, good question. Let's go back to the business challenges that I had at growing up, because the whole military thing. I was such a young guy that it was like just growing pains. It'd be like talking about puberty, right? And everybody remembers how much fun they had with puberty. So the I think the biggest challenges, and as far as leadership when I was growing in business, was learning how to give clear messages and expectations, and kind of how to balance the whole do what I say, not what I do thing. Because when the culture that you, there's a culture that you say you have, and then there's the culture that you live. And the people, you'll track the people around you that live like that, and they'll suffer the same health problems that you do if you're not balanced. So burnout was a big thing for all the guys that worked with me. Even some of my clients really would suffer burnout too, just because I guess birds of a flock fly together. So I got lucky when I was a little bit older. Is I found a more mature or stable, not more mature, but more stable business partner. And he's like, look, life balance is like the basis of surviving. And I never thought of balance as survivability, and probably never cared about it when I was young, because when you're young, you just got a lot of energy. You don't see people around you falling apart, but
Yeah.
as you do this, you start to see people falling apart. I've had people that have worked with me so hard that they end up with diabetes, or on the verge of like these kind of diabetes and heart problems and stuff. So while I was lucky and I didn't have those issues yet, at least, I started to see those around me breaking down and really struggling. So when you see it around you, you start to realize, hey, am I causing this around about the people around me? Is it just their nature? But there's a combination of that. And that's why I say your culture is what you do and not what you say. So I tell people like, hey, it's the weekend, guys. Go and have fun, right? It's time to relax. The goal is to get out of the start at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and you're finished no later than 6. Like, these are human expectations. Enjoy that. Just go. And the guys would see me coming in at 7 or 6 and working until 1 a.m. And that became internally the expectation that they felt compelled to. And it wasn't a
How do
formal
you
expectation.
cope up with this kind of pressure? Because I met so many people in my life, and I don't think that people like to talk about it.
Well, no, because it's so what happens is it kind of gets in the way of family. Of course, you don't know your kids if you're doing this for a long time. And when you're doing like this, it's not sustainable, except in a broken way. So when you have a sick mindset, or kind of like a body that's just broken, you can force it through to do whatever. But as soon as you stop, the whole system breaks down. So you can live in stress. A person can live in stress for a long time until they figure out to catch their breath. And then all of a sudden they get sick, the things fall apart, or they get a major sickness and all of a sudden they have to stop. And then the whole kind of system catches up on itself and your body breaks down.
Yeah.
Terrible way to terrible thing to do to your employees and your friends and yourself, right? And a terrible thing to do to your family. If you should people hate the whole hustle culture concept. I'm not going to say you should do hustle culture, but you should really work your ass off in the beginning part of your life.
Understandable.
That's different than what we're talking about here, right? You should, when you're young in your 20s and early 30s, you should be using a lot of your energy. You should be working hard. You should be focusing and putting a lot of focused effort into particular tasks so you can get training, you get experience, right? There's a lot of value in that. But if you don't have balances in there and you find yourself working into the too late into the evening, when you start to realize like you don't see your kids anymore because you get up before they do and you go back, they're already asleep when you get home, right? It's not just you're missing sports games, right? Which is, it can happen, right? There's a balance of going to sports and stuff, but there's also your kids don't know you. They're kind of grown up without that father or the mother figure in their role, depending on which one is crazy. Let me ask you, your young mother, you are hustling a lot and bouncing a lot.
So
How do
let
you
me
manage
tell
that?
you that how it works for me. Do you know that right now I'm working more than 16 hours a day? Like my office started at 11 and it
Mm-hmm.
ends at 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I have to take care of my house. I have to cook right after my
Yep.
office has been finished. And after that, after cooking, I have to take care of my baby. I am sleeping poorly and constantly feeling like I wasn't doing enough lately.
Mm-hmm.
And even when things were going well on paper, the stress started affecting my decision making, my
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and honestly, my health. So for me, the turning point came when I realized that I wasn't thinking clearly and was starting to disconnect emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally spoke to a mentor who urged me to take it seriously and get professional support. So I started seeing a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
A little time before, restructured my schedule, and most importantly, like allowed myself to stop pretending that everything was fine. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, right now I'm doing fine, but past 2 months was very difficult for me because it is the first time that I am becoming a mother, and I'm having a very tough schedule because I have to do everything on my own, my office, my house.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Oh yeah.
it was one of the hardest but most important lesson I have learned as a working woman. The taking care of my mental health isn't a weakness; it's a strategic advantage. You can lead well if you're running on empty. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's how it works for me.
Oh yeah. And it's a hard thing for women who have their first child. And guys don't understand this, right? But women, when they have their first kid and they become pregnant and they start to feel it, and it's really kind of they're connecting with it emotionally, and they're understanding its character. All of a sudden, they realize that there there is so much responsibility of a life now, and for the first time, many of them discover fear, anxiety, pressure, and what it is to be a woman
Exactly.
for the first time. Guys don't understand this. First of all, because we don't have that kind of same connection, right? We understand the whole protecting the family thing, but we don't really understand that this is a life that we created and responsible for it, and in a way that women do. I still can't say it well,
It's
but
a very big responsibility to taken care of.
oh, and it totally changes your mindset and your life. So, guys,
Exactly.
just know that when your girl gets pregnant for the first time, everything you thought was about her, be prepared for it to change. And
Yeah,
you have to understand that to yourself.
exactly. So we are having some question to answer. Let's take some questions. So here's do you think mental health should be part of your startup success metrics? Why or why not? Would you like to answer that?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a fun question. Mental health is showering part of a matrix that you could use for success. I think perhaps in a small way, right? Mental health is like showering, is like caring yourself, is like eating. It's like breathing, right? Do you get a good metrics for breathing? I think that it's more about that culture, because if you turn into a metric, you're all of a sudden going to say, okay, you need to get at least 7 hours sleep. You have to start doing an hour of fitness a day, walking, whatever, weightlifting, whatever it is. You have to start eating healthy, or all of these becomes you have to's, right? Because that's what a metric is, right? It's a quota. You have to achieve it. And this starts introducing a level of health, of stress, that I think isn't helpful. I am a fan of long work days for employees. For example, I would be happy with like a 8 to 6 work schedule for all my employees, 5 days a week. And in that was expected that you have an hour lunch, which includes lunch, maybe some socialization, some fun, an hour of fitness, which includes the hygiene, the taking care of yourself, or doctor's appointments, stuff like that. That these are expected. That there is in the waiting in the general area, fresh fruit, things that are healthy for a person, gives them energy, not crackers and all these stuff that do that. So I think the employer should focus on business values and personal values that align with that, to make it so that the employees and partners and yourself has this healthy culture. So you can't do this on an hourly thing. This is
Very
generally
important
a
to
salary
having
thing.
a healthy culture and healthy work environment.
Yeah, and I think it starts with the person on top. When people see that if you say, "Hey, I appreciate this," and this, work-life balance, that you're doing fitness, you're taking care of yourself, you're doing regular health checks and all this, and they see that you don't believe in that at all yourself, that you're not doing it, it's like, okay, great. I'm glad you're going to mother me or father me, but I'm not taking you seriously because I see your values.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm kind of like you, right? People like to be like that powerful authority in the room. So if you are more charismatic, or an all charismatic leader, which means you probably care a little bit, right? At least, then you need to also express it. So all these attitudes filter down, and you can still be very aggressive, very focused on learning and developing and working hard, but define for yourself those roles and make sure you pass that along to everybody else, and encourage it. It's sometimes you have to repeat these things for people to say it, but as soon as you repeat something and they see you doing the opposite, then there's a huge dysfunction. And yes, you can say, I expect everybody to do work fitness every day, and you can miss 1 or 2 days, right? That's understandable. But if they see
So
like you don't do it,
what kind of person you are? Did you start losing your appetite when you're stressed? Because when I got stressed, I started losing my appetite. I just stopped eating. I don't feel like eating anything if I'm feeling emotionally stressed. So does it happen to you as well or not?
no, I don't share. I don't hold stress that way. I hold stress. I hold my stress in my chest mostly. So I hold tension. And normally I do it physically. So I am, of course, a guy that can eat, right? So yeah, I'm an eater, right?
There are
And maybe
people
sometimes I'll eat out of nervous
who do
stress.
stress eating. So
Yeah.
there are two types of people who when you're feeling stressed, there are one type of people who stop eating, and the other ones are starting eating more.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of what you got to look at where you hold your stress, right? This is how you should know yourself. Do you hold your stress in your stomach, right? And if that's the case, when I normally, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong in the audience, people that hold their
Mhm.
stress in their stomach, which most women uh, do you find that you don't eat when you're stressed, or do you find that you do? I find that you tend not to. If you hold your stress in your chest, then you tend to be more bursty and kind of over emotional. If you hold it in your head, you tend to have more need to oversleep, more anxiety, and more lack of
I do
clarity.
oversleep. I do oversleep whenever I'm stressed.
Okay, so you're probably an overthinker.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, beautiful
So
girls that
move on
overthink.
to our next question. So I wanted to ask that what motivates you to keep going when things feel stressful, or when your work feels stressful? What motivates you to keep going with that?
Oh, okay, good question. Such a good question. Too many levels on this one. First of all, you have to understand yourself. And for me, it's I know that I will solve any problem that I start chewing on, and it may take me 5 days or an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that I am inclined to do this, I do some things. I force myself to do certain things, like get enough sun, make sure that I'm the one at least picking up or dropping my kids off once per day. That I'm doing things to break this pattern of work indulgence or stress indulgence. So this is kind of the first part. The second part is a lot of successful people find that they have very consistent habits. And by internalizing these habits,
Habits. What habits you're?
the habit of going to sleep at a certain time, of doing fitness, of
Mm-hmm.
eating at a certain place at a certain time, at least your lunch or whatever you can kind of control, having your anchor points that you're very consistent about. And the more consistent you can do that, and the more you're intentional about maintaining that as a healthy plan, then the easier it is for you to manage the stress that just comes up and is about, because you build those walls. And you have to say to yourself, there's only so much I can do in a day. And then you look how to be more
Right.
productive. Work in that time blocking. Work on having that creative release. Realize if what you're doing is just not for you. At a certain point, there's a difference between giving up on something you should not be doing, right? Like, I should never be a cross country track runner. It's just not my style, right? I build bulk, right? I'm just a kind of guy that would pick up a tree but not run with it for 20 miles. So I know what I can do, but it doesn't mean that I'm like, okay, I want to not do certain things. I try it, I see what I can do, and then in 2-3 months of trying something, when I've given it a good try, then I'm like, okay, is this for me? Right? So if you find yourself years into doing stuff that you're actually not getting satisfaction from and you're still anxious about it, then you need
Mm-hmm.
to reconsider your options. And if you say to yourself, I'm doing this because it's the only option that I have, then you need to look at what you can do to start shifting away from that, and recognize that early. You look for the cracks in your life before you end up in the big potholes. Look to
Yeah.
see how well your finances are. Are you with money at the end of each month? If not, right, this is one of those indicators of acceleration that's going to bring stress into your life.
Financial
So
crisis is the huge to get stress on, I guess.
huge,
For
breaks
me,
up
for
families,
me at
everything.
least.
Yeah, yeah.
If you
Makes
are
women
running
crazy.
a family,
It
yeah,
makes, for women, it's a huge deal, right? If you're a guy
it is.
and you're having this spending problem, right? I'm going to call it a spending problem for most guys, because like, okay, some women, they need those Rolexes and all that stuff, right? They need their man to be showing off because they have some kind of issue for whatever that is. But most women don't care about that, right? They're like, they settled down, they got the guy. They're Once you got a family, now they're focused on that generally, right? If you found that right girl, if you marry the
I'm
wrong
not
girl,
talking about showing off or bragging off the money. I am actually talking about to face the financial crisis while you're running your own family.
mhm,
You have to take care of your family. So I guess in this situation, when this situation comes to that person, so it is very difficult to cope up, because there are so many people who get collapse if they are going through the financial crisis, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, and you have to recognize that early on. And for me, I've seen most of the problems for people is they're showing off. They may be showing off in very minor ways, right? But they're doing things that aren't fundamentally required for their success. And it's easy to get wrapped up, say, I have to do this, I have to have this office, I have to have this car, I have to have this this watch, or
Mm-hmm.
this perfect clothes, right? Or this brand of makeup. That somebody has to see me in the mall Sephora once a month to know that I'm being successful. You look at your habits and see what's actually self gratification versus what's helping your family. And I ran off on that tangent, but look at those things that are causing the stress and just plan through it. If it's not enough money, cut back on spending, make a plan, and raise the income, or move to a cheaper house, move in with your parents for a little while, do whatever it takes to solve these financial
Yes, we,
problems
we, we
early on.
can we can do this.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's not a bad
So,
idea. Like we
when this situation comes to me,
say it again, dear.
when this kind of situation comes to me, so I'm just telling you that when this kind of situation is comes to me,
Mm-hmm,
so what motivates me to going through, I always like remind myself why I started in the first place.
mm-hmm,
This really motivates me to keep going with my stress. Like the mission behind the work is what keeps me grounded. And I think about the impact I want to create, the people who believe in what we are building, and the team that's relying on me to show up. Like I'm having a team of like 4 to 5 people, and I am the one who is leading the team. So I have to tell it to myself that I have to learn to find strength in small wins. Not every day brings major breakthroughs, but even minor progress is fuel sometimes. So I also lean heavily on routines that help reset my mindset, whether that's stepping away for a walk or just having a real conversation with someone who understands the pressure. So ultimately, it's not about being superhuman, it's
mm-hmm.
about staying connected to purpose, staying consistent. I guess consistency is the key. And give yourself permission to pause when you need to. That's what
Mm-hmm.
allows me to keep going without burning out completely. So, yeah,
That's There's some
that's the
good points
case
in
with
there.
me.
There's some warnings in there also. Okay, so Alan Hill, one of my friends that I do podcasts with, he has a great example. He has this guy that was a senior C staff, and he says these guys are like my family, the people they work with, the company he works for with. And he's like, I have to work all so very hard to support them and
Mhm.
to really be there for them, not just in a business fashion, but also in a personal way, because they're my family. And he really felt like this, and he worked really hard for like 20 years in this one business, one part of a business. And then they moved him. They're like, okay, look, you got to move over to this other place. And he's like, but I can't leave my family here. What are they going to do without me? And and he was like taking them out to barbecues and doing all this, like really treating them like better than his family, right? He was spending like he gave more to his work family than to his real family. And when he moved away, he came back like a year later, a lot of the same
Mhm.
people, and they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" Right? And they're like, "It's and he's like, "Yeah, how you doing? Like without me?" They're like, "Oh no, it's great, right? We don't even miss you." And he was devastated because he's like, "This was family. Like, how could you breathe without me?" Um, what's important is that you realize that boundary between work and your personal family and your personal and yourself, right? You gotta have that balance in there. I work way too hard a lot of the times, not because of the work the team is family, but because I care for the team and I feel like I have to produce for them to care for so that they have a chance to care for their families. There's some of this that's very healthy,
Yeah,
right? This is
I was
responsibility.
about to ask you that what I was about to ask you that what kind of relationship you're having with your team, and you just answered that. So how do you recognize burnout in yourself or your team?
So I recognize burnout by uh, the fact that you start missing targets, and then you start working too much, and then you start reducing the quality of your work. So it's a hard
Hmm.
thing to judge, and it's a hard thing for me to call people out on because I don't want to sound like a jerk, right? But sometimes I'm like,
Burnout can be tricky because it doesn't always show up dramatically.
It doesn't show up right away, and that's the problem. You can't recognize it instantly. And there's a
Yeah.
difference between like, hey, I just had a fight with my wife this week, and I'm all off, and I'm impossible to deal with, or with my husband or my kid or whatever. There's just normal stuff that's in life, and you need to give people space. Let them work it out. If they're bringing it to you, great, let them share. But there's times you just got to let people be a little bit to breathe. And then there's, okay, yeah, I've noticed a pattern, and people don't break down over a day, right? You can go insane with one bad day, right?
Mhm.
Batman or Joker, but health degrades over time, and a society degrades over time. So look to recognize the changes in people over time and make that part of your leadership style, to focus on that and to reflect on that, and to say, hey, this person was like my star employee. What's going on in
Mhm.
his world where he's now in this case where like he's about average, right? And I see that he's overworking, and that the something has gotten to him, right? And you don't know, is it work? Is it family issues? Is it a health condition? But you can, at some point, you got to go into it and say, hey, we care about you. What's going on? Have that private conversation and be open to that. And see, sometimes you have to force people to accommodate better health
Yes,
for
you should be
themselves.
open to that, I guess, because
And force was
that's
a hard word.
yeah. And this is a very healthy, it seems very healthy relationship between the leader and the employee, if you're open to your team. And with me, it's I become more irritable, less patient. I'm a very less patient person. I am not liking this habit of mine, and I start avoiding decisions physically. I might feel consistently tired even after rest, and it's like my mind is always running but not going anywhere. And with my team, I have learned to look for more subtle signs, like a drop in engagement, slower communication, a
Mm-hmm.
noticeable lack of creativity, or people showing up late to meetings
Yep.
they used to care about. And sometimes it's someone working too much, not taking breaks or day offs. That's always on mode can actually be a red flag.
You
So
mentioned three great ones right there: lowered KPIs,
yeah.
missing targets, and changes in the attitude. Good job. Those are three great signs.
Yes, these are the three great signs. And the key is to create a culture where it's okay to talk about it. I try to check in regularly. We are having one kind of session, like a face to face session, in which I do talk to my team, not just about work, but about how people feel. The earlier we spot burnout, the easier it is to prevent it from turning into a crisis. So
Mm-hmm.
we do have such kind of session. I am doing such kind of sessions with my team after 1 month or two, and we just talk about random things, and I do ask them that how they feel about life, what they are up to these days. So I guess that this kind of conversation and sessions are helpful to get to know about your team. So yeah.
This is good. Yeah, get to know their team, get to know them personally, and make it, and see where their comfort zone is. Right. So there's, you got to. It's often about the person's comfort zone, and not kind of creating a stressful environment by like, hey, you got to share all this, even though it may not be your style. Right. There's ways for everybody to express themselves. Sometimes it's not talking. Sometimes it is. And
Mhm.
there's a good question here about mistaking burnout with progress, and there's another kind of twist to that is um, making mistakes in the way that you talk with your teams, and kind of making assumptions about, is this burnout, is this progress, is this a health issue, is this a family issue, right? And the way I look at it is, you can ask those questions like, hey, what's going on? You ask,
Mhm.
you kind of dive into it, like, hey, what's going on? You dive a little bit more into it. You repeat the person's word some. If they say something that does or doesn't make sense, you kind of repeat that, use their words, and let them kind of express themselves a little bit more before you make assumptions of, is this burnout, is this a personal issue, or is it just their natural cadence. One thing that's that I've sometimes confused is, especially when dealing with women, is understanding, is this a natural cycle for the person where they have high or low energy, or is this kind of becoming an issue where, it might be a health or burnout issue, and how to address that. You have to be super delicate when you go to talk to somebody about these burnout issues, these personal issues, because sometimes it might be you causing the problems, even you don't know it. How do they express it,
Yeah.
right? Or you may be making a problem that's not a problem, and all of a sudden you've made an issue with something that's never there, and now you introduce new stress that wasn't in the first place.
Yeah, it is a good way to cope up with such kind of situation. So here we are having another question from the audience, and the question is: have you ever mistaken burnout for progress? Like, what were the signs in hindsight? I guess we
Yeah.
have already discussed a lot of signs.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I was just referring to, is mistaking different emotions or different challenges with what I think it is, or putting myself in the people's shoes. Very easy to do, and very easy to do as a leader in your organization. Really, sometimes it's just about, hey, asking clarifying questions, having some discussion, not making assumptions, and sometimes seeing if there's resources, training, or what the bottleneck is to help that person relieve and sometimes grow through any kind of challenge. One of the biggest things that I've seen some successful people do is not to hit the burnout question like right on the head, but to say, make sure to have that kind of lifestyle question. Hey, are you getting sleep? Right? Showing that it's important. Are you getting some kind of activity? Right? Or is there the resources you need? Do you have the training that you need? What are you finding here that's easy? What are you finding here that's hard? Sometimes you can relieve a lot of stress by changing the system that you have for a
By
person's
changing the
specific
system
need.
as well as changing the environment around you. What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, I think in thought leadership jobs, like a lot of us do, you can change the environment for the very minor changes that can make huge changes in an individual's life and performance. So you got to keep your eyes open and to encourage this interaction between your teammates to see if you need to make some changes or to be considerate about stuff. This is the same
Yeah.
thing we found when we opened up the world to remote forces. We find that sometimes a little bit of freedom is great, but too much freedom is very counterproductive. We find that
Yeah.
sometimes for some people, very strict structure and processes is amazing for them. They thrive on that. We find others that need a little bit of routine, but need to have that flexibility to be able to take their kids to school and not worry about being 5 minutes late. Uh, the
I
life.
am totally against the micromanagement. I won't be able to bear the micromanagement. If I'm working somewhere,
Mhm,
I need some space and some freedom to share my ideas and my opinion
mhm.
over there. I won't be able in such environment where in such environment where there is a micromanagement. It is very terrible situation for me to work with in such environment.
Probably your version of micromanagement and my version of micromanagement is fairly different. I I'm a mix on the feeling. I think everybody has a certain level of autonomy that they need and a certain level of structure they need. And that structure might fall into they need to be micromanaged and not to feel the stress of making up their decisions. Or the opposite side, they need the chance to have full autonomy and to be creative, and you just give them the guidelines that they can fall in, and then they accept the job or not. So
Hmm.
me, I don't have the time to micromanage people. I don't like doing it. sometimes I will get into the nitty bitty of my teammates' stuff and progress, and seeing how long it takes stuff, and measuring things, and doing some stuff that feels like micromanaging. But when you get through that cycle with me, you see it's not a micromanagement cycle; it's a development cycle that's based off of looking at different ways to develop KPIs and measurements, and to
Mm-hmm.
gauge how you're doing and gauge your performance in a way that's easy to share and to express. And it relieves a lot of stress for most people when I kind of get into that mode. And it's more about what tools you use, how do you evaluate yourself, how do you evaluate success or failure, and how do you measure that. There's a book, I can't remember the name of it, I lost it, I think somebody borrowed it, my kids used it for a fire or something, but it's like how to measure anything, right? So there's a book on how to measure, like, you'd be surprised on the amount of things you can measure that you didn't think you could by measuring something kind of related, or the effects of something.
My opinion is that people do their best work when they feel empowered, not controlled. And my
Mhm.
approach is to set clear expectations, provide support when needed, and
Mhm.
then give my team the space to execute. Like
Mhm.
trusting people to lead in their own roles, not only boost performance, it builds a culture of accountability and growth. That's what I have learned from my 7 year experience in
Mhm.
work life.
Yeah. There's a balance that every group of people tends to have their needs, and you probably selected the group of people that has these same values as you. And that's a great thing, because you understand how to work with this. As your scope of work of the people that are under you expand, you'll see that different people have different motivations and different things that
Yeah.
they need to both be have value in their life, and to have whatever makes them feel good. And we sometimes have to be different. This is something I learned probably 15 years ago, through doing some very just intense projects, where the culture that I was in at the time was, if you are not constantly developing, constantly growing, then we're just going to ask you to leave. Your job is to voluntarily leave, because it's
Mhm.
not working. And it was intense in this kind of focus there you developed. It was constant improvement. It was aggressive, go get it done kind of work, right? And everybody knew it, and they thrived on that. As the this company evolved, then is like, okay, cool. Now we see value in people that are consistent, but don't want that intensity, or don't need that intensity to drive. Because sometimes we're driven by that intensity, and the team
Yeah.
around us, or around me, also was driven on that. And that's what I was talking about with this, creating a culture of burnout, which you try not to do, right? It's very easy to do. It's very easy to create an
Mhm.
unhealthy environment, and if you're the one leading that unhealthy environment, it's often very hard to see
Yes,
it.
it is very easy to spread the negativity, I guess.
Yeah, and who says it's all negative, right? This kind of aggression and hyper work isn't
Pessimistic,
necessarily, yeah, it's not,
pessimistic behaviors.
yeah, it's not bad by itself. It's bad when it's not managed, right?
Hmm.
When you forget the human factor, and that the people have cycles. So that's one thing that we had challenges with, and I have challenges. There's times when there's like, in a year, there's 3 months that I can work hard as hell, and then there's a month or two that I just need to
Which are
chill
those
out.
3 months? Would
And
you like to tell us?
so for me, I love to work in the colder seasons. So in the winter, you'll find me working from like 6 a.m. until 1 a.m.
Usually, people like to go on vacations while in winters, and you're the one who wants to work in colder season.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
new for me.
I'm crazy. I'm crazy duck. And maybe some of this is evolution, because my wife loves the seaside, right? So for her, she's like, she doesn't want to be cold. When it's warm out, she wants to go to the beach and have fun with the family. So she's a good woman, will manage her husband in a way that he doesn't realize, right? So mine has probably accepted me for being the crazy that I am, and said, okay, these are the seasons you'll be calm and do things. So I've fallen into that. And for me, it gives me seasons to heal and to be calm and to be creative and to stop and say, okay, cool. When I'm stopped, my heavy focus, the kind of more creative processes spin up, and I get a lot of fresh
Mhm.
ideas, which is terrible
That's
because I come
great.
back to my teams.
That's great. That's good to hear. So, Phil, do you think tech culture gets wrong about work-life balance?
The culture around me certainly has a lot of times. There is this, this hustle culture taken the wrong way is unhealthy, right? And I can
I'm
admit that.
specifically talking about the tech culture.
So in tech culture is a hustle. It is a work,
Mhm.
program, burnout kind of culture. So this whole hustle culture is, in my mind, and some people say it's a different definition, but in my mind, it is go until you drop. Work as hard as you can. Get those software out, get that system out, go build a business, go build the MVP, do that round of marketing, do whatever it is to nail a round of success as quickly and intensely as possible. And this energy isn't good for every field, but it's kind of good for some fields. For me, it is kind of my natural process to go like that. The
Mhm.
and it's
Yes,
hard,
I'm
right?
totally
It's hard for me to
agree
fight
on
against
this
that,
with you.
especially for me, because I have my clients, and I'm not whining about this, right? Don't get me wrong, but I have my clients. I really care about them. I want them to be massively successful as quick as possible, because I know for them, they're, especially if they're entrepreneurs for the first time, they're stressing out. The emotional burnout for entrepreneurs is intense in the first 7 months, because the natural energy carries
Mhm.
you for about 4 months, and then you start having anxiety and stress, and you have to you have to really pick up. So we all have this kind of success flow, right? And with development of massively and complex projects, you have to sustain the energy, or the entrepreneur feels like they have to sustain the energy very high. So they start real intense, right? Especially with me, I'm like, hey, this is a lot of work in the beginning. We have to look at this product. We have to develop the next 6 months of success, plan out the first year, and to see what's going on. I want you guys to be able to have your roadmap. I want you to be able to talk to your investors. I don't want you to get ahead of yourself. So you have to distribute your energy, and you have to do it at times with a lot of intensity. And sometimes there's a lot of waiting in there for them to get a good product in their hands, to show off, to make revisions. And this energy for entrepreneurs is very hard, because they have that low
Mhm.
cycle of just sitting there, and it's a lot of work that's not including them. And so they kind of have this like anxiety, and then they have to come out of this anxiety, climb up the mountain of high energy activity, of sales, of communicating, of refining the product, of getting out there with the clients, and doing all the stuff that entrepreneurs have to do. And it's hard if you don't know it's coming, and it's very hard if your development team doesn't produce results in a time that is going to help you maximize your early creative energy. Because we all know, like, when you have a good idea, you have a lot of energy right away, right? The first thing you do is like, I want to go and raise hell, and got this idea and go get rich, right? And then you have to bring in patience, and it's hard to do. It's hard to balance that.
Yeah. So, who is your favorite entrepreneur in tech world?
Oh, my favorite entrepreneur. Goodness. I want to say Elon Musk. Let me think of somebody else.
I was about to ask you this, that would you talk about Elon Musk, because no, he is known for pushing the boundaries of technology and space, though
Oh
also
yeah.
controversial for his leadership style.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I
So
feel the way
there
he
is a
does.
controversy as well.
Sleeping on the factory floor, uh working 18-40 hours a day, right? Just insane. My wife is like, you're like Elon, and I will not let you. Like, no. No, stop it. I don't care how fucking smart you think you are. No. Right. So she reins me in. But yeah, I like Elon for that. And this is his nature, right? It's also his periods of intensity and periods of burnout. And yeah, he's very controversial because he expects the people that are under him to work in that cycle, because he has this vision of going to Mars. Everything he's doing is very mission oriented. For him, his drive is to go
I think
to
he
the.
likes to being in controversy because there are days whenever I wake up in the morning and I do open my Twitter, there is always a controversy against Elon and about what he's saying, what he's doing. So yeah, what do you think about it?
I think this is more of a kind of like marketing ploy, a PR game for him, than I think he cares about controversy.
It
Controversy.
can be one of the strategy. Do you think?
It's a strategy. It's definitely a strategy at his level. Trump does the same strategy, right? You do things just to stay in the news and to stay relevant. And the size of his companies, it makes sense because it keeps him in investors' minds. There's games you play at these levels. I don't really. Maybe I haven't had the success or patience to try them, but I think a lot of those are games just by his biography, right? And maybe I'm wrong on this. I'd love some people to throw in there if you think that's like just his natural thing. He is a little crazy, but who's not crazy in the end? And to be like that kind of successful, you have to be a little bit more than just a little bit not crazy. You have to be kind of insane. And that's okay. What's wrong with a little insanity? Come on.
Yeah. So, what's a myth about entrepreneurship that harms founders' mental well-being?
Oh, a myth.
Do you think it's a myth? There's a myth about entrepreneurship that harms your
Mm.
mental health or anything about it?
Yeah. This is so there's so many misdemeanors, no misnomers about business and success. You don't
Mhm.
have to you don't have to be
What is
ultra
success to
intense
you?
sometimes. Oh, good
I
question.
always
That's some pretty
ask.
good questions.
I
Okay.
always I am always up to this question to people that what is success mean to them.
So I have an internal and external version of success.
Mhm.
My external version is that I got you the outterm, or I met the outcomes that I said I would, that either internally or externally said I would, plus a little bit more. So there has to be that little bit of plus for me. This is my metric of success. My internal measure is that I really changed the lives of anybody that I'm dealing with. And that's kind of a excessive, insane level to of a degree of success to judge anything by. So I don't encourage it. I don't even think it's a healthy one. But it is one of those things that kind of drive me because that's part of the fun in why I do what I do. So is it terrible if it's a lot of fun when you do it? Yeah,
Mhm.
not every sportist loves practice, but it's part of it. So I don't know. Is it good
In
or
the
bad?
in the entrepreneurial world, I think it's easy to chase numbers and forget why you started. But real
Mm.
success is being able to wake up every day and feel proud of what you're building, knowing it's making a difference and still having time and energy for the people and
Mhm.
experiences that matter most. That's what my perception is.
I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't know if success is something that we need to chase.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you
Exactly.
life values, I guess I'm going to sound like an old guy. If your life value is about chasing success, riches, or women, then you're probably not going to really find any point of joy in your life. And joy
Mm-hmm.
is a hard thing to chase because joy isn't something that you earn, it's something you experience.
Exactly.
And normally it's spiritual. So if what your goals are don't align with nature, success is a hard thing to chase. So yeah, if it's success that you're trying to chase, mm, I think it's a sad life, right? But
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with trying and striving to be successful. It's all in the value and the personal worth that you put on it. Because when you achieve any success, it's a stepping stone for the next success. It's not a destination, and it's a destination until you get there, and then it's forgotten for most of us. So, while I do strive for success, and I think that's healthy, to make it your life value and the value, your personal value, I don't think is a good thing.
Yeah. And we are having Abdullah Tariq in the audience, and he's saying that despite growing awareness, discussing mental health openly in tech industry is still stigmatized in many environments.
Mm. Well, come on, we're guys. Like talking about any kind of emotional challenge is not a cool thing to do. Uh,
Mhm.
and even like when you're like talking with women about emotional stuff, like most guys only talk about emotions if it's trying to get a girlfriend. The
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard. Anywhere it's hard. So when you know it's a hard thing to do, how do you go about it, right? If it's important to talk, if there's a reason to talk about it and to take up the energy to see what is the underlying issue, maybe find the right way to communicate with the person that you're dealing with. You'll find that
Mhm.
women are crazy. They will look at their emotional stuff and they will evaluate it, they'll critique it, and then they'll critique the thought process around the critique of the thought process. At least my
Exactly.
wife, right? So that's women. Guys are like, man, I just broke my foot and it hurt a lot. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
have a beer and then I'm gonna get back to work. Or wow, my wife just dumped me and stole my dog. I hope the police get her. And they
That's
go on,
funny.
right? And while they maybe turn up inside,
Mhm.
it doesn't always help them to even talk about it, right? So guys don't often feel better by talking through things. A lot of the times they just have to work through it. And that
Mhm.
working through it for guys a lot of time is the better solution than dwelling on it. And I'm not saying not to talk about it, right? I'm not even saying not to address it. And like I said before, try not to make assumptions on what the actual underlying issue is and find ways to help support the person to resolve it themselves sometimes. If they come out and blurb it out because it's boiling on top, awesome, right? Sometimes the person just needs medication too. Uh, but that's
And that's not a problem, I guess. If you're taking the medication, I guess it is healthy. If it is healthy for you, you should go for it.
yeah, I don't know, right? I'm not a doctor. The I understand in America sometimes we have a hard time defining what a woman is, never mind prescribing medication. So that's a joke. But yeah, no, I am for medications that help balance things out. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's not as difficult as we make it. And I don't know how much I trust medicine in a lot of ways. While it's amazing,
Mhm.
saved many of us many times, sometimes medication can go the wrong way. Um, but also, it goes back to this: how smart do you have to be if you're a leader in a leadership role? I don't mean the
Mhm.
CEO, right? You might be the main marketing person in a manager
Or
in
the
a
team
marketing team,
lead, the
right?
department
Yeah,
head,
you might be the
the
team lead, the
PM.
department head. Exactly.
Mhm.
You might just have two or three guys and girls under you,
Mhm.
and and all these levels, there's a leadership misdemeanor, misnomer, misconception that says I have to be the most genius, the strongest, the lone wolf, the what's that guy, the wolf that everybody makes fun of. Um, I'll look it up later. Not John
Okay,
Clan.
that's
Do you know?
okay.
Do you know who I'm talking
So,
about?
sorry.
I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Don't worry about it. But yeah, it's so easy to get in your own way by thinking that you have to be a genius or lone wolf, and this misconception gets in our way of both helping people and achieving our goals a lot of times.
Yeah. So we are on the last minutes of our podcast. Let's have the last question from the audience. So we are having a question like, what's one small habit you have dropped recently that actually used to keep you sane?
I love that. Hmm. Um, I used to fidget with I used to fidget a lot, right? And even once in a while now, you guys have
Mine
catch
too.
me doing it. Yeah, it's just like clicking or whatever fidgeting. I used to do that a lot,
Mhm.
and it's
Me
a
too.
terrible thing.
Me too. I
Oh,
used to do that a lot
right? And
in
everybody hates it
in
when
my
we do it.
university times.
Yeah, right. Your professors loved you for that. It's a self-soothing habit that's, while it feels good at the time, it's just
It is
disgusting.
very satisfying sometimes.
It's never fine. Fidgeting is not cool if there's other people with you.
It is satisfying for me.
Yeah, well, it's always, yeah, it's satisfying, but don't do it. You see what I'm saying? Oh, okay, cool. Do it. Like, you go in the room and fidget some. Uh, this is one of those things I try to catch myself from doing, and yeah, this is kind of like a habit. For some people, this is like smoking, right? I know a lot of people that go out, they'll smoke,
Yeah, they do
and
smoke.
yeah, and they feel more productive, and they might be more productive because it forces them to have these breaks. There's always
It's
better
about the
solutions.
mindset, I guess. It's about the mindset.
Everything comes down to your mental health and your physical health and the health and the relationships you have with those around you.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we had a very good time. We had a very good topic to talk on for today. And for my audience, if you're watching this today, it means you care about it, doing it in the right way, not just fast, but well. That already sets you apart. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
thanks for being here, guys.
take care, guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, keep building bravely and take care of your mind like you do would take care of your product roadmap. So have a good time, have a good weekend ahead. So bye bye, take care, see you in the podcast. Bye
See you
bye.
guys next week. Ciao.